Next season will be the most important of most of the current grid's careers. With brand new engines and a completely reworked aero package, the door really is open for absolutely any team to gain an advantage, and all of a sudden, you could see the likes of Williams, Alpine or Haas competing for race wins. Trying to predict how everyone will do is basically impossible, but the drivers still have a big decision to make. Do they put their trust in the team they're with at the moment, or do they think they could have a better car elsewhere? Some drivers may find themselves without a drive at all. The biggest decisions need to be made by the Mercedes and Red Bull teams, and with the summer break not far away, some movement in the driver market is imminent. Today, I'll check out who's at risk, who wants to go where, and what on earth is going on with Mercedes. So don't go anywhere. Last season's driver market was utterly mental. Most of the grid was on the move one way or the other, and in the end, only two teams kept their lineups the same for 2025. That was Aston Martin and McLaren. Because of how much business was done last season, there actually aren't that many drivers who might be on the move this year. The big ones, though, are those at Mercedes. George Russell and Andrea Kimi Antonelli are currently without a contract for next season. George in particular has impressed this year. He's appeared to get the most out of a Mercedes machine that is missing the performance needed to take a fight to the McLarens. Nonetheless, he's executed really well, making the most of what he has to finish on the podium 4 times before the Canadian Grand Prix, where he managed to secure a race win while McLaren were off their game. Kimi Antonelli got his first podium in Canada as well, but perhaps hasn't lived up to the hype that Toto Wolff generated before this season began. 4 times he's failed to finish in the points, though Mercedes PU failures have played a part in that. Nonetheless, he has less than half the points of his teammates, but as a rookie driver, that is forgivable. After crashing on his second ever F1 lap during FP1 in Imola last year, there was some worry that he might be a bit of a liability for the team, but that hasn't proved to be the case. He's been safe, consistent, and Mercedes are probably pretty happy so far. Outside of Mercedes, Red Bull have some pretty big decisions to make. Their usually fruitful junior driver program dried up a couple of years ago, and Nick de Vries unsuccessfully tried to plug a gap in their production line, and after that, Liam Lawson was somehow worse than Sergio Perez. Yuki Tsunoda has been promoted to the top team and has provided some consistently unimpressive results, but at this point it's impossible to know which is worse, the driver or the car. Until Red Bull actually builds a drivable car, judging whichever poor soul has to partner Max Verstappen is basically impossible. Sadly, for the majority of the Red Bull stadium, they only have this season to prove themselves. Yuki Tsunoda, Liam Lawson, and Isaac Hadjar are all out of contract in 14 races' time. Hadjar has been the most impressive of the lot, but what Red Bull want to do with him, and which of the 2 teams he drives for next season, is a complete mystery. Then there is the very strange situation at Alpine. At the moment, they're only going to have 1 contracted driver after the Austrian Grand Prix. Alpine needs to make a decision whether Franco Colapinto has been any better than Jack Doohan, and whether either of them deserve a seat for next season. While it isn't going to be as silly as last season, there is a lot that could happen, and it seems like Mercedes will be the team to trigger things. The question that Toto Wolff needs answering is Max Verstappen available? The Austrian spent much of the start of this year being very public in his pursuit of the reigning Drivers' Champion. To George Russell's credit, he said it didn't bother him. After all, there isn't a team on the grid that wouldn't sign Verstappen if given a chance. In the past month or so, Toto seems to have quieted down about the whole thing. Is it because things are actually now moving in the background? Or is it because he has committed to Russell instead? Kimi Antonelli seems set for a new contract and has been described as the future of Mercedes a number of times by Toto, which means it is Russell at risk if Verstappen is signed. It's tough on Russell. He's done everything that was expected of him. He's stepped into Lewis Hamilton's shoes and has delivered so far, probably better than many people expected. In addition to that, because of all the movement that happened last year, there isn't a top seat available, apart from maybe at Red Bull, though if they do let Yuki go, they would surely prefer one of their own junior drivers over an import. It is Mercedes' style to make their drivers wait for new contracts though. Russell's previous deals were announced in September in 2021 and then in August 2023. Before him, the bulk of Hamilton's renewals came in July and August, so there is still time for Russell. He isn't stupid though. He knows how this game works and has been playing the field in case things don't pan out at Mercedes. He was spotted in conversation with McLaren bosses Zak Brown and Andreas Stella in the paddock at the season-opening Australian Grand Prix in March. And then, Russell was seen embracing Alpine executive advisor Flavio Briatore at the following race in China. It emerged in April that Russell had held informal talks with Red Bull team principal Christian Horner as well, who publicly expressed an interest in signing the British driver last season. And more recently, Aston Martin has emerged as another potential destination for Russell, with the team reportedly expressing an interest in the four-time race winner. Even more recently though, Wolff has given an indication of what is most likely to happen. When asked about the future of Georgia Mercedes, his answers have changed from deflecting the question to saying a contract will come in time. Asked if Russell will be forced to wait until September for a new deal, Wolff said, "Definitely not that long. George and I are totally clear of how this is going to go, and there is 100% alignment. There's no such thing as dragging this on, because that's not what we do." So while Mercedes looks like they could be busy in the market, everything's actually pointing towards a continuation of Russell and Antonelli. Mercedes just need to get some contracts signed. While things are looking simple for Mercedes, Red Bull's drivers are making it very difficult for them. Across the two teams, Red Bull have 3 drivers out of contract: Tsunoda, Lawson, and Hadjar. In 2022, Max Verstappen signed a deal to keep him at Red Bull until 2028. However, that didn't stop months of speculation last year that perceived anonymity in the Red Bull team and heavy interest from Mercedes could see him depart Red Bull before then. Red Bull have also confirmed that performance-based exit clauses do exist in Max's contract, and with the team 4th in the Constructors' Championship and Verstappen 43 points off the championship lead, it can probably be assumed that those clauses will be active if Max does decide he wants to move teams. Will he choose to act on those clauses though? Or would he rather wait a year and see what the grid looks like after a season of new regulations, and then make a decision on whether to leave or not? Those are questions that no one but Max himself can answer. Instead, let's focus on the other 3. Ideally for Red Bull, Liam Lawson would have worked out in the Red Bull team, which then would have allowed them to let Yuki Tsunoda go from the Racing Bulls at the end of 2025 and promote Arvid Lindblad in his place. Obviously, things haven't worked out that way. Lawson had a terrible first 2 races at Red Bull, and to save his career, they swapped him out for Tsunoda. It was the right decision at the time, but it was one that they should never have had to make. Tsunoda probably should have had that seat to begin with, even if it was just for 1 year. Red Bull aren't in that ideal world though, and what they have now is a young driver in Isaac Hadjar who is comfortably outperforming Liam Lawson. Promoting him for 2026 is probably sooner than Red Bull would ideally want, but that might be the situation they find themselves in. It's no secret that Red Bull don't really want Yuki long-term, so the assumption is that he'll move on elsewhere, or potentially out of F1 altogether. That means Hadjar gets a promotion up to Red Bull, and Lawson finds himself alongside Lindblad next season. Though, if Lawson's results continue as they have so far this season, then he's far from guaranteed a contract renewal. Ayumu Iwasa, the current Red Bull reserve driver, must be chomping at the bit to get a chance to impress Christian Horner this season and take that seat off Lawson. Finally, there is Alpine. The team is all over the place at the moment, following the departure of Renault chairman Luca De Meo. No one quite knows if Renault want to sell or if they're trying to rebuild for a charge to the front. Certainly, the end of their engine department implies that they don't want to invest too heavily going forward. What is even more awkward though is the state of their second seat. Franco Colapinto is out of contract after the Austrian Grand Prix. When he was given the chance to replace Jack Doohan after the Miami Grand Prix, Alpine very openly said he had 5 races to prove himself. Has he? Well, neither has scored any points so far, but Doohan's average finishing position from the 4 races he finished was 14.75, while Colapinto's has been 14.25. A gain of half a position is an improvement, but he still hasn't scored any points though. They have Paul Aron as a reserve driver, who had a stellar F2 campaign last year, finishing 3rd to champion Gabriel Bortoleto and Isaac Hadjar. Perhaps the 3rd time is a charm for Alpine's second seat? One thing seems certain: neither of the 2 drivers who have held Alpine's second seat so far this season have done enough to guarantee themselves another year with the French side. Perhaps we could see a return of Pierre Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda as teammates next year instead. With the summer break just a few races away now, announcements are going to start coming thick and fast, and watch Mercedes to start the domino train of them. Do you think that Russell will get his extension? Or is Verstappen on his way to the Silver Arrows? And what on earth do Red Bull do about their rookie drivers? Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.